Hello, everyone, and welcome to another webisode of the Fund It Fast Chats. I am Rochelle Butler of the San Joaquin Valley Clean Energy Organization. On behalf of the Fund It Fast Chats team, I would like to wish everyone a happy pumpkin spice season. We appreciate you joining us yet again here, where we take complex funding and financing concepts and we distill them down into bite sized and actionable pieces to help you get your projects done. As part of our overarching theme of IDSM for 2024, this month we have set our focus on solar plus storage. Now, solar is certainly not anything new on our collective radar. In fact, it's difficult to miss, it seems, for us Californians at least, that everywhere you look, there are solar panels. There are so many things to consider, and in true Fund It Fast Chats fashion, we are going to focus our energies on the thing that matters most to people considering a solar project. It's the money, of course. When considering the financial aspect of a solar project, there are many questions you may have, which I'm going to break down into simple concepts for you. These questions include things like, do I need to incorporate storage and why? What kind of storage makes sense for me? Auxiliary storage or backup storage? How should I pay for this equipment? Should I lease, purchase? Should I sign a PPA? And what are the tax implications that I should consider? So let's start with the very first question. Why do I need a battery? Let's think about the big picture here. One of the biggest hurdles our electric utilities face is how to manage grid demand during the peak usage hours of 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. and still maintain an environmentally sustainable energy mix. This is one of the foundational goals of IDSM. I have talked about this topic quite a bit. If you would like to read more about it, I recommend you check out a couple of articles on our blog EE series. The first one titled What the Duck, and the next one was published more recently called Solar Plus Storage, but why do I need the plus storage? Rate changes in 2023 provide an incentive for prospective solar customers to integrate battery storage into their systems by significantly reducing the credit users receive for selling electricity back to the grid. You may be more familiar with the terms NEM 2.0 and NEM 3.0. NEM stands for Net Energy Metering, and 3.0 refers to the version of the rate structure. This happens to be the third version. NEM 3.0, which took effect on April 15th, 2023, changes a lot about how we value solar projects. For example, instead of realizing savings by sending electricity back to the grid, savings are based on the avoided cost of using electricity during peak times when rates are the highest. Instead, customers are using their own electricity that has been stored in their batteries. Battery storage helps manage the peak time load on the electricity grid at large and also provides an incentive for importing electricity back to the grid when it's needed the most. That's the key. Back to our original question, why do I need a battery? The short answer is you don't really need a battery, but the benefits of having one far outweighs the potential cons under this new rate structure. For example, a solar project with battery storage will have a significantly shorter payback period, and it will reduce your dependence on the electricity grid. That brings me to our next question. What kind of storage makes sense and why? There are two different types of storage batteries. The first one being an auxiliary battery, the second one being a backup battery. Before researching for my own project purposes, my own personal solar project, I didn't realize there were more than one type of battery out there. The auxiliary battery and backup batteries both perform many of the same functions, mainly storing electricity for later use. However, the applications are very different, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. An auxiliary battery is what most people have incorporated into their solar PV systems on their homes. The primary function of auxiliary batteries is to charge during the day and store power for use when solar production begins to decrease, going into the late afternoon and then into the evening when there's no solar production. An auxiliary battery is not meant to keep your home or office powered in the event of an electricity outage. However, a backup battery is exactly how it sounds. Its primary function is to provide power in the event of an outage. These batteries are more commonly found in facilities where it is critical not to lose power. Think about hospitals and emergency response facilities. Backup batteries are also used in some industrial applications where the loss of power could actually damage very expensive equipment. Backup batteries are rarely discharged because they must be fully charged and ready to go in the event of a power outage. That leads us to the most important question: how should I pay for this equipment? Depending on how much power you need to generate and store, a solar project could carry a hefty price tag, even though it provides energy savings over the long term. There are several options for paying for these projects. I will talk about the most common and give you an overview of the main pros and cons of each. So, some customers choose to purchase solar and battery equipment outright. Now, this method does provide the biggest savings for the customer in the long term. Although it is rare for a homeowner or an agency to have the capital to purchase a system in cash, there are a lot of advantages to doing this. The pros are: a customer purchasing a system in cash, they actually avoid interest cost and any added complications of dealing with a financing company or qualifying for a loan. This can be a hurdle for a lot of people. This customer would also get the full tax benefit of the solar tax credits that accompany purchasing a solar system and putting it into operation, as well as the full energy savings off of their bill immediately. The cons of purchasing a solar PV system outright are, as I mentioned, the upfront capital outlay. Another con to this method is the customer assumes all of the risk of if the system does not perform as anticipated, as well as the full responsibility of maintaining the system. Maintenance includes things like cleaning and servicing the panels. This leads me to our next option on the list, which is financing. The main pro for financing a solar PV system is that the customer receives all of the benefits of ownership without that upfront capital outlay. Often there is zero upfront cost to get the system installed and operational, and the customer enters into an agreement with the financing company to make installment payments over a period of time. This is usually 20 to 25 years, or it can be less depending on how you structure that loan. These agreements are often bill neutral or less than the usual cost of the customer's utility bill. The cons include interest and other fees, sometimes hidden, often imposed by the solar financing companies. Other cons include the added level of complication when determining the ins and outs of the terms, which can include things like property liens or additional fees added to property taxes and things like that. Now, purchasing either in cash or by financing, as I said before, comes with some tax benefit. But what if you're a tax exempt agency? Does that mean you miss out on those tax credits? Well, there are two types of tax credits that can be claimed on a solar project. The first being the investment tax credit, or ITC for short. The second being the production tax credit, or PTC for short. The ITC is a tax credit that reduces federal tax liability for a percentage of the cost of the solar system that is installed during any tax year. The PTC is a tax credit that is determined on a per kilowatt hour basis for electricity generated by your solar system and other qualifying technologies. That can include your battery storage as well. These tax credits are for the first 10 years of a system's operation. So, like I asked a moment ago, what if I am a tax exempt agency? Tax exempt agencies can still benefit from tax credits in one of two ways. There is the direct pay method and the transfer of credit method. In both scenarios, that organization must pre-register with the IRS to be eligible. Projects placed into service after August 2022 may be eligible to receive a refund from the IRS for those tax credits under the direct pay method. For those that are not eligible for the direct pay method, they may also sell all or a portion of those tax credits for a given year. They must sell to an unrelated and eligible taxpayer. That takes me to our next financing method, which is the leasing method. This is a popular way to finance a solar project, and it works very much like leasing a car. Generally, when leasing, maintenance and cleaning of the solar PV system are included in the agreement, it is easier to be approved for more diverse credit profiles. However, over the long term, leasing also comes with some drawbacks. For example, leasing in the long term comes with higher costs. The customer is not eligible for any tax credits I mentioned just a moment ago because they are leasing. They're not actually purchasing the equipment. Additionally, a lease agreement can make a real estate transaction much more complicated because the buyer must actually take over that lease agreement for the remainder of the term, which is typically 20 to 25 years. And that leads me to our final method. The final method being PPAs. PPA, as I'm sure you've heard of the term PPA, it actually stands for Power Purchase Agreement. It behaves similarly to a lease, but with a few caveats. It's similar to a lease in that you don't own the solar PV system and therefore are not eligible for the tax credits. A PPA is an agreement between the solar company and the customer to purchase the electricity generated by the solar PV system at a predetermined price. The solar company still owns the equipment, though, in this scenario. This method can be favorable for agencies that, for whatever reason, maybe they are not able to have or have difficulty getting certain types of debt liabilities approved by their board. There are some pros to this type of arrangement, though. For example, it allows the customer to stabilize their energy costs while electricity rates continue to climb. Solar PPAs generally have a buyout clause at or after the 5th anniversary of the system being operational. This allows the customer to purchase the system at its fair market value and terminate the PPA. So the PPA isn't forever. The cons to this arrangement primarily are that the customer will never be eligible to collect the tax credits, even if they purchase the system when their agreement allows. Those are the main methods of financing a solar project. There are many, many more creative methods out there. However, that goes a little bit beyond the scope of this video. I will be sure to provide links to additional resources if you would like to take a deep dive on any of these items, as well as other helpful resources. Please also remember, you can connect with us on any one of these or other topics if you have follow-up questions. You can connect with us on any one of many of our platforms. You can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Spotify, or you can visit us at sjvceo.com. Happy fall, and until next time.